What's up YouTube, Capital G here, talking more about this new Buster Blader support that's going to be released in Breaker of Shadows. And yeah, now we can officially call this like a full-fledged archetype. Before, we know that Buster Blader was really just two cards. It was the original Buster Blader from Feral Servant, and it was Dark Paladin from Magician's Force, which, to be honest, I think that card was like more fanfare than anything. Like, they just took two really popular cards, and Dark Magician and Buster Blader, and was like, hey, let's just combine them together and put them on a TV show, and everybody will love that. And that's pretty much all that Dark Paladin was. But we knew a couple of weeks ago that Buster Blader was going to be getting more support. You see that we have a fusion here, we have a way to summon our fusion, and we're getting a new Buster Blader card that's just better than the old one. But I was kind of wondering if we were going to get any new Buster Blader dragons, because the fusion does require a dragon monster. I mean, it's not like we have a shortage of good dragons in the game. Even if they ban the dragon rulers, we still have like a wealth of just really good dragons, because it's one of the most supported types ever. But now we've got a dragon that also works, or that works in this deck, that's also a tuner, which means that we're getting a synchro too. So they're going full in on this. We're getting a synchro, we're getting a fusion. The deck's going to be able to do some plays. I think that's really good, because with this card, which I'll get into in a second, not only do you get dual utility out of it to be able to make synchros and fusions, but I already thought that Card of Consonance was going to be good in this deck, and this kind of confirms it, because this guy is Destruction Sword Dragon Buster Blade. I don't think that name fits the artwork at all, but that's, you know, I digress. Mainly because this card stat line, 400 attack, then 300 defense, level 1, like it works perfect with Card of Consonance. If you can't, you know, use your fusion summon because like you don't have the fusion spell or something like that, you can just discard it for Card of Consonance and draw some cards, and maybe you get to the combo pieces that you need at that time. So let's see, this guy has 3 effects, and you can only use the 3 effect once per turn. The first effect is you can target one Buster Blader you control. You can equip this monster from your hand or your side of the field to that target. Okay, so it's essentially like Machina Gear Frame. You know how Machina Gear Frame can equip itself to Machina Fortress, and Machina Fortress would die, you can destroy the Gear Frame instead. It's kind of like that, at least the equipping part, and when unions used to be a thing, but Konami kind of gave up on that. Effect number 2, if this card is equipped to a monster, your opponent cannot special summon from the extra deck. This is huge to me, because this is potential lockdowns for a lot. Like, this is potential lockdown for a lot of the decks that were kind of from the Duelist era alliance, or the Duelist alliance era. I mean, you think about Shadow, Sir Tellarknights, Yang Zing. I mean, if you can't use your extra deck, like, you're just not doing a lot in that deck. Burning Abyss. I mean, yeah, they may have ways of actually killing the Buster Blader, but until they actually do that, it's going to be hard. And you got to remember, the Buster Blader monsters are all big. Like, they're all 2600 plus. So, you know, if those decks can't get to the extra deck, like, they're really not running over monsters. You know what I mean? If you get this out against a Tellarknight player, I mean, he's kind of in trouble. It may not be super good against like Necroz or Cosmo, but it could be really good in a certain matchup. Effect number 3, if this card is equipped to a monster, you can special summon this card. Again, just like that effect is what gives the card even more utility. For some reason, if your opponent just isn't like summoning monsters or something like that, or let's say you go for the turn 1 lockdown of the extra deck, and your opponent isn't playing a deck that really relies on the extra deck, okay, well, you can just unequip it. You can special summon it to the field. You're probably not going to want to attack with it. It's only 400 damage or whatever, unless it's game. But you could obviously just, you can synchro into this guy, which we'll discuss in a second, or you could use them as fusion materials, and you could fusion into the Buster Blader fusion. So okay, next up is the Buster Blader synchro monster, and it's a dragon. Let's see, this is Buster Dragon, the Precept Trampler Dragon. What does Precept Trampler even mean? Like, I have no idea what that even is. Okay, so it's a Dart Dragon synchro, obviously level 8. They had to make it level 8 because the Buster Blader cards are like they're all level 7, and then this guy is level 1, so it just makes sense to make it level 8. Let's see. 1200 attack and 2800 defense. This stat line is not super great. Not going to be running much over with this guy, but I mean, I assume most of the time you're going to want to summon it in defense mode because it's got a huge ass. You can summon this guy with 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner monsters. Okay, so it's generic. You don't even technically have to play it in Buster Blader. You can play it in anything that can synchro. You can play this shit in Yang Zings, I guess. All right, it's got 3 effects. Hopefully some of them are good, because, you know, you got to make up for that stat line. First effect. All monsters your opponent controls are treated as dragon. That seems really good. It's specifically because Buster Blader as a card was meant to just be the bane of dragon's existence. He was just meant to be the destructor or the destruction of dragon monsters. And have you seen the fusion? Like, this guy really hates on dragons. I mean, he has Dragon Destroyer in his name, for freaking sake. All right, effect number 2. Once per turn, if you do not control a Buster Blader monster, you can target one Buster Blader in your graveyard, special summon that monster. Wow. That is insane. That is really good. Okay, so essentially, if you synchro into this using Buster Blader, well, you know, you don't even have to use Buster Blader. Let's just say that you're playing it in Buster Blader, because we've already established you can summon this in anything. But let's say you're summoning this in Buster Blader, in a Buster Blader deck. Well, you're probably going to use Buster Blader to get this, to summon this card, because, you know, 7 + 1 = 8 equals this guy. When he's in the graveyard, as long as you don't have another Buster Blader on the field, you can just get that Buster Blader straight back. So this guy just instantly revives the Buster Blader that you used to summon him. So I was thinking, I was like, this card can't do any damage by himself. Oh, yes, it can. You just get the Buster Blader back and you beat the crap out of your opponent with it. So that seems legitimate. And then if the Buster Blader dies, you just fucking get another one. This actually reminds me a lot of the Silver Azure Eyes Synchro Dragon for Blue Eyes. That actually reminds me a lot of it, where you summon that and then, like, during your next turn you just get your Blue Eyes right back. And then effect number 3 is once per turn during either player's turn, you can target one Buster Blader monster you control, equipped one Destruction Sword monster from your graveyard to that target. This guy this guy. So basically Konami is like, they're telling you, look, use this guy, use Buster Blader, you know, go into the Synchro monster, get your Buster Blader right back, and then just do a whole bunch of good stuff. Like, this monster seems really good. And now it makes perfect sense why they couldn't give this card, like, you know, 2,500 or 2,200 attack, because you would have been able to do too much damage. Like, could you imagine if this was like 2,600 attack and then you revive the Buster Blader at the same time? Like, you'd have 52k or 5,200 on board. Like, it'd be too much damage. So the card is definitely good. I don't know how playable this stuff will be, just because it's gonna kind of be hard to predict the meta, like, you know, how Psyframes and all the other stuff that is coming out of Dimension of Chaos, such as the Magic Specters, are gonna be. But the archetype looks really good, and I actually neglected to mention that because of this card's effect, you know, basically making it so your opponent can't summon from the extra deck. It could be a little bit of pendulum lockdown if you put all your, like, if you get rid of your opponent's resources with a Torrential or, you know, a Regeki in there, like, I can just pendulum summon back my monsters next turn. That counts as summoning from the extra deck, so you wouldn't be able to do that. The archetype is looking good. I do wonder why all the monsters, like all the new monsters, are dark. I mean, this guy's life, but like, why are the dragons all dark? I don't know. Anyways, thank you guys for watching as always.